and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell up the street in Westborough, but this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary and their goal, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Southborough, that means right here. They don't want to come to Marlborough where I live. They don't want to go to Westborough. It's too far away. They want to stay in Southborough. So the question in general is, who are the people you need to know? What are the programs that you need to know about in order to be able to stay right here in Southborough? And my friend Doug Peck, who lives here in Southborough and his day job running seniors, helping seniors, he's working with seniors all the time. He finds these great guests. Today, he's got a really special one, no matter where you live, although it's important to you if you live in Southborough. But first, of course, we have our good friend, Pamela Francis, who's been kind enough to join us for these shows to keep you in touch with what's going on at the senior center until things open up, right? Which may be coming, who knows? So Pam, what's new at the senior center?
Well, I'd like to answer that question as far as when are we going to open to the best of my ability at this point. So don't hold me to anything, but our general plan is to start adding outdoor events when the real warm weather comes. So as we get towards June, we're going to be adding some events outside on the lawn. Up until then, we're going to continue with our 4 exercise classes. We've got some cable shows that people have been enjoying. Of course, Arthur's programs, which have been great educating people. And we've got one more drive-through at the end of this month. If anybody's interested, give us a call. So we're going to continue with that format into June as we progress with the good weather. And we're working on our summer schedule, which is a full slate of programs outside on the lawn, social distance, a real variety of fun, some fun things. We're looking at some food trucks and some ice cream sundaes and some craft classes and some fitness programs outside. So sit tight, we're getting there. We're just hoping for all sunny days, 72 degrees all summer and sunny, and everything will go just fine. So
that's right, because it never rains here during the summer. So that's handy.
And it's never too hot on that lawn. So
it's never too hot on that lawn. That's right. That's right. So Pam, thank you so much for doing this, and
thank you for having me.
Helping us to keep updated, kind of every meeting. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pam. So Doug, who is this wonderful guest that you have?
I have a new guest. His name is Dave Tasto. He runs Tasto. He runs again, a home care company out of Bedford, Massachusetts. But he has written an interesting book called Thriving at Home. And it's a short book, but has a lot of very good information on what you need to do to stay at home and stay out of the hospital. And I thought it's just very, very timely. And again, because we can do this via Zoom, he's not coming into Southborough. He can talk about what he's been doing, what's in the book that's important for people in Southborough to know.
And as you say, Doug, that's one of the nice things about Zoom is that we're really being able to invite people from a range of places, because everybody doesn't drive through Southborough every day, but
right.
You can always Zoom in. So yeah. Thank you, Doug, for finding these great people, and thank you, David, for coming on.
Thank you, my honor. Thank you.
So David, just before we start on the book specifically, so how did you get into the home care business? What made you interested in this line of work?
Thanks. So I was, in engineering. I graduated from college in engineering, and I worked for a couple different industries, doing product development, program management, and product management as well. But and I've always wanted to start a business, but my wife and I hadn't really had a chance to find a good match for us, our interests or passion. But my personal story is just an experience with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. She was diagnosed with dementia 5 or so years ago and moved in with my mom and stepdad, who were her primary caregivers. Well, as the disease progressed, it became harder and harder for her, my mom and stepdad, to care for my grandmother. So eventually she moved into a community, into the memory area of the community. But towards the end, she required some support from hospice. with the hospice benefit, she was able to get extra help in the mornings, getting her ready for the day, bathing and dressing and so forth. Well, my mom would call me, and this is back in Minnesota. My mom would call me and share how she was just blown away by the compassion, the consideration for these caregivers. They went above and beyond in her, from what she expected even. Again, I was back in the Boston area doing engineering and product development, but I got to be thinking about how there must be millions, literally millions of parents or grandparents out there that need this kind of support. And my mom actually even mentioned, she's like, if I could have kept mom at home longer if she knew help like that existed.
Yeah.
What blew me away though is I actually got a chance to go out to Minnesota and meet those caregivers. I went back and met them at my grandmother's funeral. Not did they care enough to come to her funeral, but they told stories on how they were able to keep her smiling in that hospice period for a few weeks. And they did her hair, they curled up her hair, they did her nails. One of the aides even shared a story on how she had a grandmother who was going through a similar situation and traded blouses. This is all pre-COVID, but traded blouses with my grandmother, and my grandmother got to be wearing her favorite new blouse.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And it's just, oh man, that compassion, that consideration, and going above and beyond, not just a task of the day, bathing or dressing, but doing what they knew would kind of make her feel important and dignified in that time. It just stuck with me. And so we believe that's exactly what I wanted to do in my business. I came back from Minnesota and researched different businesses and settled on assisted hands.
That's a good story. It is. Arthur, we hear that a lot about how all of a sudden they people who don't know anything about home care realize how important these people are when they come into your life. For the people that they're taking care of, it's really a mission of passion more than anything else, for sure.
And it's a blessing to the folks who are providing the care. Typically, the people who are attracted to that, as we've seen, and as David, I bet you deal with all the time, and as Doug, I know you deal with. The people who are attracted to this are people who really want to do this. They really want to be doing. They're not people who are looking. They're not people who are looking to stay away from people. They're people who are really who want to be engaged and really be a help. It's great. It's great.
They just have the caring gene that they just want to help people.
And
put themselves at risk even, over the last year, going out and helping people in homes directly, in the middle of the pandemic. It's just been amazing.
Right. So I can see then where the impetus of your book is to, thriving at home is to keep again, like what Arthur and I do is try to keep people at home. But you've got some good information in there. Where do you want to start talking about what's important for staying at home?
Okay, maybe just a quick, like the little bit of background on why I decided to write the book. Basically, 9 out of 10 of us, want to age in place. Aging in place is basically, as I see it, is just living your retirement years where you want to live. And living, in a home could take the different forms these days, independent living, assisted living, having, somebody move into your home or moving into somebody else's home. But 9 out of 10 of us want to age in place. Well, to age in place, we need to stay out of the cycle of going in and out of the hospital and the rehab, right? As long as we can maintain our independence and health at home, that'll increase the likelihood that we'll still be able to age in place. A couple things that I saw even last summer was that basically family caregivers were shouldering a lot of the burden of care during the initial few months of the pandemic because they took over that care. Maybe some family members moved in or they moved in with family members, but those family caregivers didn't have a lot of the insight or training that a professional caregiver would have. So, and I saw all the stuff that our team was doing, having that experience. So I wanted to share that knowledge with family caregivers because I don't know, say 3, 4 out of 5 folks that are receiving support at home is from a family caregiver. So if I want to impact more folks in the community, it's really helping family caregivers as opposed to folks that we can help, Doug, in terms of private home care. So writing the book to share that knowledge, and hopefully that's going to lead to better outcomes and hopefully more happiness at home. But as far as to get back to your question about what information is in the book, in terms of so it's a handbook for preventing hospital stays is part of the subtitle. basically, so the number one reason folks go to the hospital in the first place is because of trips or falls.
Okay.
So really preventing that first trip, that's not a needed trip. Or if you can prevent a fall, we've done a lot of good to try to keep people at home. And so home safety is how we start off a lot of the content in the book. Everything we can do at home to keep our home safer, right? Avoiding slips, trips, or falls at home, keeping, you know, areas of the home clear of obstacles, watching out for wet floors, having bars, or even handrails on both sides of the stairs can help, you know, if there's a stronger side or a weaker side, you know, when you're going up or down. Little things like that can go a long way in terms of preventing that initial trip to the hospital.
That's a really interesting point. I suppose it's tips like that, you know, the notion that you may very well have a person who's got a stronger side or a weaker side. And so if you don't have a rail on both sides, then one of those trips every time they got a problem, unless they're like turning, and that's a really interesting point. But I suppose there's a million of those, you know. It isn't like necessarily building the elevator and doing the, you know, it isn't like $300,000 to do this. It's just very practical stuff.
And the key thing about, you know, aging in place is maintaining independence, right? So that, you know, yes, you know, as you age, you may need some support, but that doesn't mean our caregivers come in and do everything for you. If you're still able to go up and down stairs, that's what you want, and that's what we want, so that you still maintain your strength, your balance, your agility, right? So we're there to support, to prevent that fall, but we're not there to do it and lift you up the stairs and down the stairs, as long as you can do it on your own. This is a key piece to maintaining that independence. But another thing is just going through the home and looking for the hazards. But as we age, you know, our eyesight changes. So making sure we have regular eye exams, right? Making sure there's proper lighting in the house to see the hazards. But once you see the hazards, you got to get rid of them. So the rugs, you know, the rough transitions could take some, you know, modifications to the home between rooms, right? If you're going to trip hazard going in between a room on a threshold, some things like that might need to be modified if possible. Yeah, there's a lot of tips in the book about just basic stuff like keeping your, you know, most often used, you know, items in the kitchen at a very convenient location, right? So if the bowls and the mugs are very commonly used, do they have to be in a cabinet up top, or can they be upside down on the countertop? Right? Yeah. Simple things, but again, it's just reminding us of that, you know, we can adjust our living environment to keep it safer. Is really the takeaway.
Okay. And so what I'm hearing from you as well, it's a good idea to sort of really take a look at the whole home. It's not just one thing. And they're not big things, but there are these little things. I know one of the things that I look for when I go into is sort of night lights, and having night lights around so people can see. You know, it's one thing if you've got to walk down the hallway to the bathroom, you don't want to be stumbling. You might have done it 10,000 times, but there's that one time you're just going to misjudge. So having a night light in the bathroom and in the hallway, you know, is important for safety. And it's a small, inexpensive item, but it's just the fact that you have to do it. You know,
having the light switches on the entrance to the rooms, even, as opposed to walking in the room in the dark, stumbling away, finding the couch, and then hitting the lamp, so you know, the lampshade, you know, could just be a simple thing to kind of try to move a light switch to the edge of the room and have the light come on before you enter the room. I love the idea about the night lights. That's a great one.
Yeah. So you have this pretty well detailed in the book, then, all these different items that you really need to take a look at.
Well, the preventing falls is the first major portion, right? Okay. Preventing, you know, basically home safety and all these things we were just talking about right now. But the latter half of the book, a big part of the book, deals with another big fact that I share a lot, that 1 in 5 Medicare patients goes back to the hospital in 30 days.
Okay.
So if you've gone into the hospital for the first reason, maybe it's a fall or a trip or something like that, the odds that you're going to go back is 1 in 5 within just 30 days.
Wow.
So 20% chance. But in folks with a chronic condition, and there's like 4 or 5 chronic condition that put you even at a higher risk. So chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, diabetes, stroke, and heart failure are the top 4 chronic conditions that we talk about in the book. If we can help folks manage these aspects of their health at home, and these aren't, you know, like having a nurse, like an RN at home. These are non-medical interventions that our caregivers, but family caregivers can do with just a little bit of information and knowledge on what to, you know, like, and then we talk a little bit about going back and forth to the hospital, because it's likely you'll have to do that. But a big piece about your symptoms is understanding what's normal and abnormal regarding your condition or symptoms. Right? Because once you know what's normal or what can be expected, levels of pain and so forth, then you can help to manage those, right? But a big piece in escalating before it turns into a crisis is spotting the abnormal symptoms or pain, right? If you can spot those and escalate to your healthcare providers, a nurse, a primary care, and so forth, then you can avoid it from turning into a crisis. Like in diabetes.
Can you give some examples of that? It's a great point.
Good. Yeah, no, exactly. So diabetes is a classic example because it's often that people have to monitor their blood sugar over time, right? Blood sugar levels go up and down with different times of days and meals and so forth. Well, you know, there's a certain range that it should be within, right? Again, what to expect for your condition. If it goes above that, there's non-medical things that you can do to lower your blood sugar. Or if it goes below your blood sugar level, there's things you can do, drink orange juice and so forth, practical things that folks with diabetes know to do to raise their blood sugar level. Again, non-medical interventions. But should you take that orange juice and then it doesn't come up, or you take another orange juice and it still does not come up, that's when you escalate. But you escalate before you get further complicated symptoms. Right? So you call your primary care, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? Right? And that person, your primary care, may say, you need to go to the ER, right? You might have to go to the hospital. So, but that's keeping your kind of your ranges, in check. But just again, blood sugar is, a natural thing for diabetics to monitor, stuff that they do on a daily basis.
And I suppose a piece of that is getting over the fact that, oh, I don't want to bother anybody, I don't want to bother the doctor, they've got a million things to do, or this kind of sense of, well, I'll be better, I'll be better. And so I'm not even going to check on this because this just must be a passing thing. But and of course that's built into all of us. And I suppose it's built into all of us. And when you're younger, it is more likely that it's going to just be a passing thing. So you're kind of used to the fact that that's how you live. But I suppose that's as Doug and I are always talking to folks, that just a piece of accepting the fact that you're older is you're older, and therefore it's not that it's necessarily going to kill you, but the possibility that something could happen is just that much higher. So you have to be paying attention.
Yeah.
With folks that have neurological conditions, like dementias or things like that, where it becomes harder and harder for them to remember to check their blood sugar, right? They'll feel the symptoms, they'll know that something's not feeling right, but they won't remember to go and check their blood sugar and adjust it. So having that support on hand, or a family caregiver or a professional caregiver is a critical thing at that point to make sure that they're adjusting their blood sugars and monitoring it over time, or it will turn into, like you said, a crisis.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think one of the other important aspects here is having a very good relationship with your PCP.
Yes.
And so they really understand what you're going through. Spend a little extra time with them. A lot of people don't want to go to the doctor because they don't want to hear bad news. But you need to go. They need to understand your complete situation. Well, what kind of support do you have at home or not have at home? What do you need? Do you drive? All kinds of things like that. So if you were to call at, in the middle of the night or even during the day and say, I'm experiencing this, they understand your whole situation and can really advise you what you really should do. Some people could safely stay at home if they know they have the support there. Others are going to need to go to the emergency room because they don't have the support. So I think it's really important. We emphasize it to tell people, make sure you have a PCP who really understands your complete situation. Explain to them what's going on. So if a crisis comes up, it can be averted if they really know the right thing to suggest.
Oh,
Those are all excellent suggestions. Those are really
Yeah.
excellent suggestions. And so David, how, for folks who are kind of going through this, right, you know, who are kind of in the middle of one of these things, kind of what can they do? Can they contact you? Is there someone, once again, one of the wonderfulnesses of Zoom, you know, is that people are now talking to a lot of folks all over the place, you know, and so what can they do? And can you talk a little bit about what the nature of your home care entity is? What are you doing?
sure. No, thanks. On the notion about what can folks do, yes, they can reach out for help, but the other kind of key point I want to make for folks living at home is prepare for a hospital stay before it's needed. So it's likely that sometime during your retirement, you'll likely have to go, right? If you're going to go, often it is a crisis or it's a last minute thing because of some symptom got out of control, all the things that we just talked about. But if you are prepared for hospital stay, can likely lead to better, experience, maybe even a better outcome at the hospital. But just basic information to bring with you: a copy of the med list, right? Healthcare proxy, which is who could make decisions for you should you become unconscious or should you not be able to speak or communicate your wishes, right? Along with the healthcare proxy is like the most form or do not resuscitate orders, right? To make sure that it's clear what should happen should a condition like that exist, right? Health insurance information, emergency contacts, but then on the, because you don't know how long you're going to go for, and it might be an extended period, right? Making sure that you have some hobby or puzzles or books or other things to keep you entertained. Obviously, these are simple things to think about, but you're not going to remember to bring these or put these in the bag when emergencies hitting you. So planning for, but like communication devices like cell phones or iPads to do video conferences or with family members, and charging cables. Again, basic stuff. But you know what? If you need the iPhone charger and there's no one that has it right next to you, you got to wait and call somebody. And I think especially these days, when access hours to visitation are limited, making sure you're prepared as much as you can be, because you might not get a visitor until 24 hours later, if they didn't bring anything. So there is a chance that folks can come in and help out, but going there prepared is a big deal.
Well, good.
Yeah. So to get back to your other question, Arthur, there's a lot of resources that folks can have in the community. Local council on agings, as we just heard from, are a wealth of resources, whether it's a social worker or a program director or somebody at the council on aging can provide a lot of good resources for folks that need help. We're in touch with a bunch of the councils on aging or senior centers in our area, and they know who to reach out to for more information. It could be skilled care that might be needed at home, a more skilled like medical need, like a nursing service that might be needed at home instead of a non-medical support at home. So they'll help guide on those kind of areas. But
so how do
I'm just
people
curious. Go ahead, Doug.
I was just going to ask quickly. So at the end of this, we're going to be able to put up a slide that says where they can get your book if they want it?
Sure. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Reach out to us. I can give contact information as well, but we have a website for the book. It's thrivingathomehealth.com.
Okay, we'll get that up there too for folks, because it's very handy to have all this information in one place.
Yeah.
Sorry, Arthur, go ahead.
No. And it's handy to have a book that kind of gives you a way to think these things through, because what I think what you're talking about, David, there are, let me put it this way: every senior has thought of some of that, right? And every senior's friend has thought of some of that. But the point is, like with so much of kind of planning when you're older, is just getting all of it, getting some kind of a checklist, or that, for as you mentioned, this notion of actually having a bag and saying, that's my hospital bag. Do I want to use it? No. Right? But do I want to know that I got it if I'm going to the hospital? Yes. Right. And so it's just there. And then it's kind of like off your mind. So many, I always, Doug has heard me say a million times that, you get to our age and it's like fame and fortune has passed you by. You just want to get a good night's sleep, you know? And so the thing is, like, what's keeping you up? And if you worry about this, and certainly if you're, you know, if you're our age, if you haven't been to the hospital, you sure know somebody who has, you know, a lot of people who have, you know? And so the notion of, you don't want to lose sleep about this, but you want a handy way of making sure that you've like checked all the boxes, you know, that you've kind of checked everything off. So
Right.
that's what's really handy about the book. No, so Dave, one of my jobs, as I always tell people, is in these shows, I provide comic relief and I keep time. And I'm watching our clock and I'm realizing that we're pretty close to the end of our show. But I just really, really want to appreciate, you know, I really appreciate this. And Doug, thank you very much for dropping off the book to me. Doug dropped it off to me so that I could get ready for today. And it's really good. And it's, you know, it's an easy read and all practical information. That's the goal. And it's got cartoons. I like the cartoons.
Keep it a little bit lively.
You know, just for people who are looking for a treat. So I really, really appreciate it. And Doug, I really appreciate your continuously finding these terrific people. Because once again, it isn't
Thanks.
For Dave, it isn't just people in Southborough, but certainly for people in Southborough. This is really important information.
Right. It is. Okay.
So it's really great. So thank you so much, Dave. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And folks, we hope you enjoy this presentation and stay tuned for the next one. You never know who Doug's going to show up with next. Right? We'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.